Hello, this is Terrorontor, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to, I guess, the redo of Episode 3 of Terrorontor Does Minecraft, Science. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. Basically, I realized that the last test I did wasn't completely accurate. I was actually measuring things slightly out of proportion. The reason being that, how do I explain this? Okay, so our actual tests were, 2 blocks and then 1 mine shaft. We also did 3 blocks, 1 mine shaft, 4 blocks, 1 mine shaft, and 5 blocks, 1 mine shaft. So the repeating pattern here, the 2 blocks, 1 mine shaft, this entire pattern, which repeats over and over again, is actually a 3 block pattern. The next one is 4, and then 5, and then 6, right? So to do this really accurately with the ratios and everything, we have to make the amount of space the test takes up a denominator of all of the size of each of those patterns, right? And that's just how it works. That's truthful. That's how we have to do it to make it accurate. So those denominators were or those numbers that we had to make it a denominator of were 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the lowest common denominator of all of those numbers was 60. So, if we go back down here and I stop derping around and flying about, each of these tunnels, this big main tunnel, is 60 blocks long. So I had to redo it. This test took considerably more time. And that's why I didn't record any of it, was because I wanted to just get it done. And since it was taking so long, I was watching Kurt J. Max, Flobathon, and listening to music and stuff. Right, though, and then each of the tunnels, to make it take less time for me, I made each of the tunnels only 10 blocks instead of 20, each of the little side tunnels. Either way, I did this with a couple of worlds, and I decided that, oh yeah, this was what we got from this test in particular. I decided that since, because I was already spending so much time on this test, and I'd already made the world with the 60 long tunnels, I decided to actually also test having each tunnel with 9 spaces in between, because that's a 10 block repeating pattern, and that's also divisible by 60. So that's our 5th test here. Either way, these are our results from the tests. Our test 1, in the end you mine out 1/3 of the blocks in the area. Test 2 was 1/4, that's 1 shaft, 3 spaces, repeating until you get down to here, until it's test 5 where you mine out 1/10 of the blocks, and that is 1 shaft, and then 9 spaces into the next shaft. So here are the materials we found for each test. Their numbers. You can look at those if you want. You can pause the video and really examine those if you would like. Alright, and we are back from that epic pause you just did. Next we have our ratios. Alright, so all the ratios are in terms of this first test we did, right? So that's why the ratios for it are all 1. And we can see this is the amount of mining each one took. So if you're comparing the amount of time you spent on mining in this test to the amount of time you spent mining in this test, this one you only actually did 0.76 times the mining. And this one is also compared to the first one, and this one, and this one, right? And then this is the ratio of the amount of stuff you found. So in this one, you only found 85% of the stuff you found in this one. And in this one, you only found 44% of the stuff you found in this one, etc. So then with that, we actually, the math I did here was that after we got these ratios, I would divide the ratio of stuff you found by the ratio of mining you did. So that means that this number over here is actually, basically how much stuff you found versus how much time you spent finding the stuff as compared to this first test. And as we can see here, this actually, the first test, the one where you only have 2 spaces in between each one, and you end up finding all the materials, in terms of the amount of stuff you find versus the amount of time you spend finding it, this is actually by far the worst test you can do. This is the worst option. This one is slightly better. This one is quite a bit better than that. This one is actually equally good as this one. And believe it or not, the one where we had 9 spaces in between each mine shaft was our best option, just in terms of that number right there. But you have to take other things into account while you do this, right? Again, if you watched that other video where I actually show you the method for how I do this and everything, but the math was not quite correct, that is the episode 3 of Terrorontor Does Science, you can see that, what was I talking, right, I did mention that whole analogy about the oranges, where you really have to take into account that I only did this test once, and if I were to do it again in a different world, the results might be entirely different, right? Yeah, so this test might not be completely accurate, but I don't know, it covered a pretty large amount of space, so I'm going to say that it is probably pretty darn accurate. Let's see here. So you have to take into account that even though the numbers say that this was your best option, right, that might have just been because of the nature of this particular world, and if you did this test in a different world, it might turn up with an entirely different result. It is also worth noting that, let's see here, this is like a pretty nice increase in numbers as you go down, and this one was kind of off, right? It's like, that one's the lowest, higher, higher, and then this one suddenly goes down, and then this one is higher than that one and that one. So it kind of makes me think this one was kind of a fluke, almost just based on the world we did it in. And it's also worth taking into account the amount of space you want your mine to take up. Because I know that technically the world, Minecraft world is indeed infinite, especially as you go lower down. You know, it's just empty space down there forever and ever. So why not make your mine massive? But it's all about the amount of time you want to spend running and how nice you want it to look and everything. And with our first test, actually, we found out that this one, our test number 4, was in fact the best by far. And like I said, the math was off with that one, but the math was actually off in such a way that test number 4, had the math been correct, test number 4 should have technically been even better than it was. So I think I'm going to determine that test number 4 actually probably is one of our best options. I don't know though. You also have to take into account that in this one down here, for example, you end up clearing out less than half of the stuff in the area, right? Compared to this test up here. So you have to wonder about that. Like, what's the point of having a really massive mine where you only get less than half the stuff in the area when you could have a compact one where you get it all? I don't know. Overall, though, I'm going to say that when you really look at all of the individual ratios and stuff, you're probably going to want to go with test 2, 3, or 4. Test 1 is definitely the worst. I would not go with that one. And I would not go with anything larger than test 4, probably. So, you're either going to have 1 shaft 5 spaces, 1 shaft 4 spaces, or 1 shaft 3 spaces. According to the math in this particular test, you are going to want to go with test number 3, which is 1 shaft 4 spaces. But according to our last test, you're going to want to go with test number 4. In my Let's Play, personally, I'm probably going to go with test number 2, maybe? I'm not really sure about that. Probably test number 2 or 4. I also have to take into account with my particular Let's Play that my mine is not going to be all on one layer. I am going to be doing several floors of the mine, so I'm not sure how that'll affect it. But yeah, there you go. Those are our results. If you want to redo this test yourself, feel free to. Here's how you're going to do the test. You're going to spawn, right? Dig straight down where you spawn until you get to layer 8. Then you're going to just dig out this little 3x3 room right here and dig tunnels out going exactly 60 blocks in each direction. Then you are going to dig out your 10 long tunnels with the spaces and stuff. And you are going to want to use Silk Touch pickaxes and to do it in survival on peaceful mode probably. Come back to the middle after you're done with all that. Put everything you found in a chest as such. And if you would like to send me a message just with the stuff you found, you don't actually have to do all the math I did up there. I'll do that for you. But yeah, if you would like to send me that and we can add to our pool of knowledge, feel free. And maybe we'll get some more definitive results. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you would like to see more videos like it, leave a subscribey thingy. If you have any questions or comments, please leave a comment or send me a message. Tune in next time to see me show you a neat invention that has to do with farming. Thank you very much for watching. If you would like to add to our pool of data, feel free to send me any results you may get. Terrorontor is out.